So first of all, I would very much like to thank all of you who helped make the opening ritual such a beautiful moment of grace. You know, we were very grateful for your freedom to dance, to sing, to clap, to do whatever you were comfortable with. But it was just, you know, a beautiful hour or so of God moving with us through various mediums. So thank you very much, those of you who helped, and we're very grateful. And so let us continue in that grace now. So as the General Council reflected about this extended council, about the role of leadership, and looking for a theme for this meeting, we kept returning to the words attracting, engaging, joyful, loving, and generous. Since the meeting begins as the Christmas season ends, we chose to focus on our call to live the Incarnation. And then we decided upon the phrase, incarnating love with joy. The Incarnation is one of the mysteries that is foundational to our spirituality and charism as Sisters of St. Joseph. It is central to our faith, revealing that God continues to be in a relationship with us, and that Jesus, coming as a human, fulfills God's covenant with us. We, as part of the baptized people of God, are responsible to nurture and to continue this covenant by living fully this incarnated love. We wanted the theme for our days together to be dynamic, to be active, and to be alive. So we chose a verb form of the word incarnating, And so we chose incarnating. The Merrill-Webster Dictionary defines the verb incarnate as to give a concrete or actual form, to actualize, to constitute, or an embodiment of something. So to give form to something. Yes, as all baptized Christians, we are called to embody or make manifest Jesus. But what does this really mean? We've heard those words before, make manifest Jesus. What does this really mean for us as leaders in our religious congregation? As your General Council, we believe that as leaders who are called to manifest God, we must do it by offering an experience of God as love. The only way we can do it is to offer an experience of God as love. As women religious, we are called by our very nature to be prophetic. That is, to call forth or direct others to a better way of living. It's like being a signpost. You know how we have signs posted around the building today to help us know where the rooms are for group prayer, or for dinner, or for the chapel. Those are signposts. So we are called to be signposts, to direct people to a better way of living. Who is attracted to prophets of darkness, people of negativity, of unnecessary criticism and doom? This is not what the Incarnation is about. The Incarnation is about living with hope, in the light of God, and being joyful. That consecrated religious are to be joyful. We are to help reveal the joy and richness of a relationship with our God. Our relationship with our God is not about doom and gloom and negativity. Our relationship with God is about light and love and joy. As leaders, our witnesses to our sisters, to our associates, to the lay partners we work with, must be joy-filled hope. It has to be. Our goal as leaders could be to live joy in such a manner that this joy is contagious. I'll repeat that. Our goal as leaders of the Sisters of St. Joseph could be to live joy in such a way that this joy is contagious. Like the flu is contagious. Like colds are contagious. Like germs are contagious. Many of us have read New Wine in New Wine Skins, which was published by the Congregation for the Religious. Such a spirit of contagious joy and hope must be, it must be, one of the new wineskins we seek as we move into the future. It has to be one of the new wineskins so that it can hold and contain our joy-filled and hopeful future. Using all the creativity you've been using this afternoon, imagine what would a wineskin feel like or look like if it was made of hope and joy. It probably would not be some stiff, rigid material. But think about it, what would it be? So keep that image before you. Incarnating the love that is Jesus can only be experienced by others, by our sisters, associates, lay partners, in how we lead and in how we accompany our sisters and associates. Do they experience us as incarnated love? If our other members of our congregation were sitting here and we asked them, would they say, we experience you, leaders, our leaders, as incarnated love? Would that be the first thing that comes to them? Definitely yes, some days. Maybe on another day, they might have a different image. Actually, living incarnated love with joy flows from living the beloved community, which Ruth Patterson shared with us these past years. We've reflected on Ruth Patterson's papers. A lot of us have read her book and used it. That's what it is. The beloved community is the community that lives incarnated love. So what qualities are necessary for a leader to live this incarnated love within our global context as an international congregation? What do we need to embrace? What do we need to let go of in order to achieve this? How does this style of leadership relate to authority and power? During our time together, we will be exploring these questions and others within our various topics. Who are some models or key persons for us and how we can give form to this type of loving leadership? I would like to speak about two of the models we have spent time with in the daily scriptures these past weeks. One was with us very specially today during the opening ritual. That was Mary, the mother of Jesus. Mary was a faithful young woman, living in her time and place the traditional and expected role of an adolescent moving into adulthood. Mary was rooted in her cultural and religious context in her small village. This was her perspective and her daily life. Besides being raised in a religious family and seemingly a religious neighborhood, what preparation did Mary have for what God was asking of her? From what we know, Mary was faithful to prayer and obviously open to enormous grace. And once she said her yes, that she was willing to be the vessel, the nurturing womb that brought forth our incarnated God. So once she said her yes, remember there was some hesitancy. But then she said yes, to be the vessel, the nurturing womb that brought forth our incarnated God. At the moment of her yes, she did not have a clue of what birthing Jesus would require of her throughout the rest of her life. She didn't have a clue. She prayed, she listened to, and pondered what God's message to her meant. She visited and listened to Elizabeth and to the others whom she met as they spoke about Jesus. In fact, Mary's visit to Elizabeth was a great act of generosity. Right after hearing this unfathomable news that she was to bring forth a baby that was to be God, she left her home to go and assist and care for Elizabeth, who was in the final term of her pregnancy. She didn't stay home and try and figure out more things, or be despondent because she had to have this child that was not a child of a man that she was going to be marrying. She moved out to others. And because she moved out to Elizabeth in the generous way she did, there with Elizabeth, as we saw today, she experienced God's movement again as they greeted each other. Mary did not know the steps she would have to take into her future. She did not have a strategic plan. Yet her way, Mary's way of being faithful to nurturing the life and growth of Jesus, her gentleness, her ability to challenge Jesus, to move forward, to be faithful to his call, is a powerful example for us of how to lead by embodying love with joy. I just want to repeat that for you. Mary's way of being faithful to nurturing the life and growth of Jesus, Mary's gentleness, yet her ability to challenge Jesus to move forward, to be faithful to his call, is a powerful example for us of how to lead by embodying love with joy. Another model for us is the story of the visit of the Magi, or three kings, or three queens, or in reality, astronomers. They were not kings, they were not queens, they were astronomers. We just celebrated Epiphany 1 week ago today. Coming from the east, they followed the strong light from a star and eventually arrived at the place where Jesus was born. Now, why are these astronomers a model for us? They were attentive to their reality and studied the world around them, not remaining in only their personal context and their limited vision. They expanded their minds and their perspective. They studied the world as it was then. They listened to King Herod at first, but were astute and strong enough to change their planned route after gathering new information in a dream. They were flexible and able to move in different directions, and were not controlled by the desire of the government of their day. So just think about that. They were astute and strong enough to change their planned route after gathering new information. They were flexible and able to move in a different direction, not controlled by the desires of the politicians or government of their day. Who does that sound like? It sounds like who we should be. Not stuck in a pathway, not stuck with a decision, but able to move. So being open and willing to change pathways, to change direction, and to change decisions we may have already made before is what we often find very difficult as leaders. It's not easy for us if we make a council decision and then we decide after some new insights we really should change it. Or if the province makes a decision and we see that later on maybe we need a different route. It's not easy as leaders to address that. But it is what we need to be open to this totally new global context in which we find ourselves today as leaders. It is who we have to become. We need to be able to change direction, and we need to be able to change decisions. As long as they're not our decisions. No. I'm only kidding. During these next days, as we share how we lived the 2015 General Chapter decisions, we invite you to become aware of a balance that I want to explain what this balance is about. Okay? So as we begin to share what we've done in Ignatian spirituality, or mission, or leadership, okay, when we begin those sections, we have to be very, very aware of the tenuous balance between our responsibility as leaders to continue to encourage movement forward to meet the new unmet needs. So that's our responsibility, to continue to move forward to meet unmet needs. To come up with a balance with that responsibility and our other responsibility to meet the needs of our actual daily reality. To meet the needs of our actual daily reality. So, our daily reality might be sisters who are ill and no sisters to replace them. Vocations coming and no one to train them or accompany them. High expenses and no cash flow to pay for them. So those are some of your realities as leaders. But you also have this other side, which are the calls from the peripheries of unmet needs. So as we go through these days, we must honestly, and we really ask that you are honest with us, acknowledge and name the various current realities in our provinces, regions, and missions. To articulate them and name them. Don't hold on to them, but clearly state them. This is very important. And then we will work together based on those realities as we plan our future. But we must maintain this balance between those realities and the calls in such a way that it allows freedom Think of the freedom of the dance today, that it allows freedom for some to still move forward to meet the needs on the peripheries. Peripheries does not mean South Sudan or the moon or another country. Sometimes peripheries are just changes in our lifestyle. That's a huge periphery. Some of us will be able to change our lifestyle when we talk about that. But others won't, and that's okay. But we have to allow the freedom to move forward. Here, now having said all that, I want to give you one caveat or a warning. For when we are trying to balance the reality with new calls, we must not equate acknowledging the many blessings we have and some limitations of our reality with permission to remain stuck in the mud of the status quo, refusing to leave our comfort zones. You know, it's so easy to get stuck in the status quo. Things as they are. This is an easy hole for any of us to fall in. But the status quo is contrary to the ongoing growth, which is core to our living as women religious. The status quo is contrary to our call to listen to the new needs of God's creation. Looking at our beautiful logo, this is one expression of incarnated love. This is one expression of the incarnation. It shows that love radiates light and expands into the entire universe. It is this light of Jesus that is the horizon that we must keep moving towards. A horizon that changes subtly as our world changes. We will not see these changes in the horizon unless we are looking past our little perspective to the horizon. We will not notice how the horizon is changing with world changes. The movement in our logo is circular and open. It is expanding. It expresses that incarnate love. It expresses that incarnate love, the Word that came into being, cannot be contained or imprisoned by our hesitancy. God cannot be contained by our fears. In this logo, you can see it's open and it overflows and moves and acts. It allows for that incarnated love to overflow, to move, and to act. But we are that incarnated love, so we have to move, flow, and act. As an international congregation, we are here seeking the light and clarity on the new arenas for global religious life in the 21st century. We are not here to talk about the past. We are not here to stay in the present. But we're here to seek clarity and light about our future. Yes, we must continue to joyfully proclaim an experience of God to others through our presence, through our sacred stories, and through our side-by-side accompaniment of the displaced and lonely. You know, often today you hear me mentioning today's global context or today's global reality. We know that much of our global reality is filled with violence, with innocent people dying at the hands of groups filled with hate for certain people. hate for certain religions, or groups seeking to take over the local power. And others are suffering from natural disasters again and again. Look at our brothers and sisters in Australia, what they have been through with these horrible fires. And look at Puerto Rico, who has been hit again with earthquakes, and they have not yet recovered from the hurricanes. With this and other humanitarian crises, how can we live joyfully and love joyfully and not grow indifferent? Even when some of our own sisters are in danger. We know in Mozambique our sisters are in danger. We know in other places where our sisters are, there is danger. So how do we meet that challenge? Such terror, such trauma often challenges our faith and our belief in whether we really can be the presence of our incarnate God. Is this really possible? We only need to stop and think of our sisters who have gone before us, our sisters who lived through wars and conflicts and tragedies and natural disasters in similar times like ours. And yet, that joy and light were shared, and now it is our turn. It is our responsibility to continue this light and joy through us. Are we up to this challenge? Today we need to be actively seeking in what area of the world, in what arenas of society we are most needed as Sisters of St. Joseph now. They are not necessarily the same as they were 10 years ago. Where, this is a huge question for us, where is the greatest need for the light of our particular charism of communion? The greatest need. It's needed everywhere, but where is the greatest need? These are one of the questions we will be discussing these days, and in the chapter, the general chapter. But let's just take a minute to look at all that has been offered to us, and some of the changes that have occurred in our reality during just these past few years since our last extended council. Some examples of these changes are, we have expanded leadership to include more lay people within our structures. We are doing better at balancing the opening of new missions in the peripheries while maintaining the needs in our institutions. We are aging, we have fewer vocations, and we have more departures. We are beginning to focus on our call to live interculturally. We see the global spirit of selfishness and nationalism every time we turn on the news, read the computer, or read a newspaper. It is my country, guarding my borders. And the Cold War between the main superpowers is developing again. Global fear is increasing as intolerance of other religions and cultures grows. We have focused on Ignatian spirituality in a new way in order to deepen our Ignatian spirituality within us. We have the light of the invitation from our sisters in Pinerolo to join us and of our continued journey with our sisters from China. We have more inter-province sharing of our sisters. The impact of climate change on our Earth, with many youth now trying to lead us or push us to change our lifestyles and to speak with our voices, with a louder voice and greater presence. So those are just a few of the new contexts in which we find ourselves. And yes, as I mentioned earlier, our contexts are changing all the time. This extended council is a whole new context for us, a whole new reality, with the leaders from the teams in our province's region and the leader in our mission present, and also with our guests, the Sisters of St. Joseph of Pinerolo, and with our sisters from China present through Sister Eileen. Having this broader participation will enlarge our perspective and hopefully push out or knock down, in a hopefully not too violent manner, some of the boundaries of our vision of who we are as Sisters of St. Joseph. We have to push the boundaries. We have to push and knock down some of the walls of what it means to be a Sister of St. Joseph. In today's global reality, we must move beyond our local and narrow vision of our own context, my world, and move beyond. Move limits we set for ourselves, and move toward the horizon of global religious life for the 2020s we just entered and beyond. So if you hear some noise during our days together, hopefully it's one of the walls falling that we have in our own reality of who we are. Before I conclude, okay, I'm not quite concluding, but before I conclude, just a few words about one of the horizons beckoning us, and that is living mission interculturally. As I was rereading Sister Adriana's presentation to the UISG Assembly in May, I was so struck by similarities between the call to intercultural living and the call to incarnating love with joy. Just as faithfully living interculturally, that is, appreciating difference and creating a new culture together, is a counter-cultural movement, so too is living as a witness of incarnated love. Incarnated love is so countercultural in our world today. So are we up to these challenges? Will we be open, as leaders, to allow our sisters to initiate forming intentional, international communities as witnesses to this type of gospel living interculturally? Or will our need as leaders to direct, control, send them, those sisters elsewhere, hold us back from moving toward that horizon? 3 sisters knock on your door at your provincial council meeting. Hi, we'd like to form an intercultural community and we'd like to live in Zambia. Is that okay? We're leaving next week. After you got over your shock, what would you do? Sometimes we wonder why our sisters are not open to moving to a new culture or area, or even to a new area in the same state. Or why they're not enthusiastic about a more global perspective. But it's important for us as leaders to recall that culture is the medium through which we organize our perception of our reality. Okay? Culture is the medium through which we organize our perception of reality. So, we have already been formed by our family culture. That's one. Then we enter religious life, and we're formed by the culture of religious life. Two. Then we live in the local community for a long time, and we're formed by the community culture in that house. Three. So we are often held back from enlarging our vision by the perspectives we learned in these cultures. We're held back by them, unless we have had experiences outside of these cultures that have stirred us to learn more. In her presentation, Sister Adriana says, and I'll read this slowly, you'll reread it later anyway, interculturality will be a sign of prophetic hope for humanity. It will be. If our own experience of living together, of valuing and giving a mutually transforming place to difference, with the doors opening inwards to ourselves, puts us on the path to go out and to meet those who are different, to go out to meet those who are different, those who are marginalized, those who are invisible, and those who are exploited today. Isn't this going out to meet and to be with what building communion and leading through incarnating love with joy is all about? In conclusion, today the church leaves the Christmas season and we begin ordinary time. Today, the baptism of Jesus. Tomorrow, first Monday of ordinary time. How fitting is this for us? For us who are called to live the gift of Christmas, to live the incarnation, to be the incarnation in the everyday of our lives, in the ordinary of each day, making each moment, making each day less ordinary, making each day less ordinary by the presence of incarnating love with joy. Thank you for who you are and all you share with our sisters and our associates. May these days be an experience of hope, of stirrings of new life, and of support for each of us. May God bless us and our sacred days together.